My name's Theresa and I'm here with Dr. Bud Morris doing a short introductory interview for our COM 100 class. We're team number 15 and we named ourselves Emotions. So first I would like to thank you for taking your time for this really quick interview.
Thanks for asking.
Yes. My first question is, what college did you choose when you first went to school, and why did you choose that university?
I went to the University of Texas at Austin, and at the time I was ready to go to college, my parents lived in Hawaii. We lived in Hawaii.
That's cool.
And so I was going to high school out there, and I wanted to go either to the University of Hawaii and just stay there, or I also applied at Harvard. And I wanted to, I thought I could make it at Harvard. And then the third school that I had was the University of Texas, and I applied there because my parents were permanent residents of Texas, and so I could get in-state tuition in Texas.
Did you have any other interests besides communication, or did you know immediately that you wanted to be a communication major?
No, actually, when I went as an undergraduate, I was they called it government there, like political science here.
Okay.
And so
Texas
that was my
government.
major. Yeah, I mean, they have the LBJ School of Public Affairs there, and they have a good government department in that. And I wanted to go to law school.
Now, last spring I took a narrative stories course, and I remember you were still writing the book for the class.
Yeah.
But currently, do you have any other projects besides that book?
Well, I've started a new one, and it's a book on respectful interaction. And so, yeah, I mean, the whole reason I did that other book is that I wanted my co-author to work with me on this respectful interaction book.
Okay.
And he proposed that we do that other book first.
Okay.
So then there went 3 years working on that project. But finally, I mean, it's coming out next month.
Congratulations.
So, yeah.
While you were studying communication, what theory or method made you want to focus more or focus towards?
Well, first with theory, when I was going to graduate school, they had one of the real prominent forms of communication theory was called rules theory.
Okay.
And essentially what it was is trying to explain why people communicate as they do.
Okay.
And the answer was, well, they're following rules. And so then the question is, well, where did they get those, and where do they come from, and how do they learn them, and how do they change? So, I became real interested in how do they change, because I knew that people had these social confrontations and all, and I knew that sort of like, well, what must be happening is that at least some of the times when they have a social confrontation, they change the rules and they say, we're not going to do it that way anymore. Let's try it this other way, right? Mm-hmm. So I got really interested in this and contributed to an area of work that's called alignment theory, which is, how do people align their own behavior with the rules and with the preferences that other people have. So like, if I find out that I'm doing something inappropriate, what's the process we go through to try to get me to do things more appropriately, and to know what it's appropriate to do, and be willing to do the appropriate thing, and so forth. And especially if we're doing novel things and we don't really know what we're doing anyway, how do you invent rules to cover that kind of activity? Right. So I was interested in alignment theory primarily about how people legislate new rules. And so that's why I started studying therapy talk, because if people are having trouble and if they go to a therapist, presumably they can be helped to understand how to do things differently than just continue to have conflict and do the same things over and over again.
People do certain things, and how to understand people for what they do.
Right, or how to see a different meaning behind what someone else is doing, or something like that you might not have thought before. Anyway, so I started studying therapy talk and having students that were therapists, and so I learned a whole lot about what marriage and family therapists do. In fact, my other book was an edited book that was called The Talk of the Clinic, and it was about what therapists and medical practitioners do.
I like that title.
The Talk of the Clinic is, I think, probably, yeah, it's right here. And so it was explorations in the analysis of medical and therapeutic discourse.
Okay.
So this was, a bunch of people who were discourse analysts. This gets over to the method. This gets to that everyone here was working with some therapists or doctors or supervisors of doctors or things like that, nurses and that, but they were also analysts of how people talk. So they were using recordings and transcripts to try to help these kinds of practitioners do their jobs better. And there's a cool little side story with it, is that about it in the last 3 weeks or so, we've been going around and around about what the cover should look like.
Okay.
And the publisher came out with these pictures from Getty Images, I think they were, that were just really, really, really bad. They were all these posed pictures of people standing in hallways of businesses or something like that,
Okay.
in business attire and everything, and it just didn't look anything like the book that we were
Trying to
trying to do.
Uh-huh.
So instead, we talked him into this picture right here. And can you maybe get what that is? What it is, it's a model of theater in which they're going to put on an opera. So it's a theatrical model that they use to figure out how to build a set and how to do lights and all that kind of stuff. So and my son Chris is a scene designer, and this is his design. And he made the photo of his own design, and that's what's going to be on the book.
How cool!
So I think that I'm just really proud that whenever I see my book, I'm going to see his photo on the corner.
So what made you want to work on focus on respectful interaction?
Well, that's what I've always worked on in a way. My research has always been about how people explain themselves when they're called to account.
Okay.
When someone questions what they've been doing or why they're doing it that way or whatever, how people explain what it is and why that's the right thing to do. And I've also done some work about how they call others to account, or how they find fault with other people.
Okay.
And so, and as you know, I study it in everyday conversation and in therapy talk. So it's possible, and I have all kinds of recordings of it, where people can bring up a problem with what somebody else does in a way that doesn't make a federal case out of it, doesn't make them into some sort of major offender or something. Allow the people to explain why they did it and maybe even understand. And then beyond that, even try to figure out how to do things differently next time so that it's not a problem next time, And that's really why I'm interested, is how do people have a confrontation about something and have it work out well so that their relationship is restored and they can get it right next time and forevermore,